Let's talk about Saurus and a little bit about mid-tier infantry in general, but particularly focusing on Saurus here today and why you don't see them as much as you do Skinks. Number one thing right out the gates is we should talk about the builds real quick before we get started. So there's two Ancient Salamanders here. We've got some Saurus Spears with shields. This replays from Bob of the XMT clan, also a known map maker for the community. Has made a few for the tournament map pack and so forth. Also domination player, but here going to be playing some conquest. Yeah, double ancient salamander. He's got a high slan, razor dawns, and some skinks here. Yeah, some skinks, I should say, some javelin skinks with the cohort of Sotek. Mostly Saurus spears for infantry. As for the dark elves opposing them, scourge runner chariots. We've got Helebron up on the wagon, which is definitely a very interesting choice. Cold One Knights, very good right now. Witch Elves, also very good right now. You get that Witch Brew and Blackguard. Yeah, that is a pretty nice, serious build. Pretty nice build, Lord Beasts. But notice immediately how the Lizardmen are playing here. They've got a couple of kind of long-range pressure pieces. Three, actually, between the Solar Engine and the two Salamanders. They've got these Amazon barbs. Amexon barbs, rather, who can kind of kite a little bit here, and going into a little bit of a defensive formation, and that's really the key, is defensive, right? Saurus, especially Saurus Spears, are much better on the defense. They're slower than Skinks, so they don't synergize quite as well with really aggressive rush-oriented builds, and you know, given the constraints of a game mode like Domination, the speed of Skinks makes them really, really essential to success there. And when it comes to land battles and conquest, a lot of matchups you want to be playing aggressively, especially with you know, Cold One cavalry being really good right now, and Lizardmen's monsters also being pretty good, right? And Skinks, you know, their speed comes into play in a number of different matchups. Yes, they won't win as much, but Saurus aren't necessarily going to win as much either. We see a couple units here getting just destroyed by Witch Elves and some other stuff, AoE effects, you know, all the things that can kill infantry do kill Saurus, although, because they're fairly big unit models, kind of spreads them out a bit. Don't take as much AoE damage from certain things, and likewise, they got decent armor, really good mass as well, which again, for a spear unit, does matter a pretty decent amount. Mid-tier infantry in general is in a little bit of a weird place right now, and it can sometimes be effective, especially certain units like super aggressive high DPS units like Witch Elves, or there are certainly some defensive units in certain matchups as well. You know, something like like an armored Kossar. I mean, there's definitely good units in that class. Don't get me wrong. By and large, though, a lot of units in that class aren't as useful as they have been in the past. Is that a good thing, bad thing? Hard to say. It really depends on what you value as a playstyle, but can certainly be effective when you're trying to play in a certain playstyle, and especially like anti-large, specifically mid-tier infantry right now, it seems is pretty good. Or like I said, aggressive, kind of DPS-oriented mid-tier infantry. Yeah, these Amexon barbs, though, get a really nice hill position here, just shooting down and absolutely wrecking those Cold One Knights. Bob's done a great job so far of defending the Amexon barbs with all of his tools. He's even got some stalkers in here. Nice little kind of utility tool unit to come in on the flank and tie some things up, maybe deal some burst DPS. But yeah, Crone Helebron threw some big buffs there initially, and they did manage to DPS down a lot of the Saurus Spears. A handful do remain still, but High Slan also has been getting some good damage. We've seen at various points there. Probably got one banishment off. Yeah, he's got Blood Statuette of Spite as well for that wreck damage. Probably going to be throwing that, I'd imagine, on the Witch Elves here. Or definitely on the Cold One Knights. It's another great target as well. Maybe even Cold One Knights as the priority. Definitely as the priority, because win condition-wise, definitely need to protect these Ancient Salamanders. So far, they actually haven't been able to shoot wildly effectively. The Solar Engine has been putting in some pretty good work. Of course, both with its damage. It's nearly, you know, 2/3 of the way for paying for itself there. And also, you know, the debuff is super strong, just great for support, but a lot of the Lizardmen units still struggling to a degree. I mean, not only the anti-infantry DPS from units, but also from Lore of Beasts as well. If we check the caster's value, it's 300 value. Nothing too crazy so far. But the Salamanders, yeah, you can see how dangerous those Cold One Knights would have been to them. Right now, the Scourge Runner Chariot's in pursuit, trying to chase down those Amixon Barbs. Crone Hellebron also chased here. Hand of Glory on the Amixon Barbs, give them a little bit of melee attacks. They actually did some damage to Crone Hellebron in melee there. I love the little cheeky counterattack, because technically they do armor-piercing damage. Not amazing in melee, but 37 melee defense is actually not terrible for a skirmish unit. It's actually pretty good for an armor-piercing skirmish unit. Basically mobile weapon team. Yeah, there might have been one point in time where I called them skirmish cavalry, and well, that's kind of true in a sense. It's not really true. They're more so designed like mobile weapons teams. I mean, in practice, they do function more like mobile weapons teams because they can't really fire when they're moving. But anyway, the Salon here comes for a risky engagement against Crone Hellebron. Even weakened as she is, she could potentially put a pretty good hurt on him. But Bob, sensing he has the HP to spare here, is going to go for the dice rolls and see if he can't just get like 1 or 2 hits on Hellebron, try and break her, or even finish her off. But unfortunately, the Amixon Barb's leadership does get finished off, as the Scourge Runners also have a decent amount of ammunition left, which will be quite dangerous for the Lizardmen in the late game. If they didn't have these Salamanders, I mean, the Salamanders are continuing to do some really nice damage. Blackguard getting blasted there. And yeah, as far as the Dark Elves go, there's pretty much nothing left. We do have one trusty Saurus spear here also out in the open. Could go cap that objective, but just generally going to be pretty tough to take down. And yeah, I see the Solar Engine lining up the kill shot. Nope, swing and a miss on Hellebron right over the shoulder. Or under the armpit of the big statue there. Statue of Cain, I guess. Can it be done? Will it be finished? Perhaps. The Solar Engine, edge of the map is right here, and gets the kill shot. Yeah, with that, that's going to be a pretty decisive blow to the leadership of the Dark Elves. Can't imagine the Scourge Runners will want to stick around for too much longer. Let's fast forward through their final stand. Yeah, they're going to get some pretty good damage, but ultimately they don't have enough ammunition to get through all of the single entities left remaining, right? Bob's done a good job of managing things, and Saurus, you know, like I said, good in a defensive, good in a support role. Yeah, here they do manage to help these single entities survive, and we'll take a look at their value. I can't imagine they would have gotten an insane amount of value, but just having them, especially given, you know, the supremacy of kind of cavalry and a lot of monsters right now, it makes sense why you'd want them. And none of them end up paying for themselves, which is fine, but, you know, in support of these other units, allows them to get the work done. Those Amixon Barbs are definitely pretty key. They get some very key volleys, and even a little bit of melee damage there, as we saw. But yeah, very fun performance from them. Love to see kind of an underutilized ROR, I think, performing quite well in this game against Squire Rat, who sent me a few replays recently I've got to get to. But anyway, yeah. Stalkers also managed to come in and get some pretty good value, kind of cleaning up routing units, which is always fun. Love the high magic support as well. Does a great job here of helping various units do good. Yeah, the Ancient Salamanders also do some pretty good work. Nothing absolutely insane. The Solar Engine definitely puts in an incredible amount of work. But yeah, as the Dark Elf side, Scry Rat does a nice job with the Scourge Runner Chariots. Ultimately, I think maybe even want a third Scourge Runner Chariot in place of these Blackguard, because they didn't really do a lot for this build, but the Witch Elves definitely, like, they're a power piece for the Dark Elves for sure right now. Can cut through, you know, whatever, and it's generally why, like, even the I guess hand weapon Saurus, just like, why, you know, they don't really win a lot of engagements against kind of units in a similar cost range, and like I said in recent videos, a lot of things kill infantry. And so when they don't really kill anything, like, they don't do as good of a job of holding, even as the spears necessarily, because they don't have as high melee defense. The anti-large component also, well, let's just go ahead and talk about Saurus stats specifically, and then we'll kind of broaden the scope a little bit towards the end. But anyway, yeah, Saurus, the spear ones, they don't cost any extra, right? And it's the same costs for both of these. And, I mean, as far as taking unshielded versus shielded, I have 50 gold. It's pretty much always worth it to take the shielded, in my opinion. It's 6 melee defense plus the missile block chance, which is definitely pretty important in a lot of matchups, a lot of situations. But I guess if there's some weird situation where you need to cost optimize, you can. But, yeah, the Saurus Warriors, Spears and the Saurus, regular Saurus warriors. So Spears anti-large bonus is pretty considerable. It is plus 16, which is enough of a difference in the melee attack and melee, or sorry, weapon strength that they're just better against a lot of stuff. And considering where the meta's at right now, you're going to see a lot of cavalry, a lot of monsters potentially. You know, Lizardmen, you might see a lot of shooting as well, depending on the matchup, which, again, Saurus don't really help you in that situation because you need more faster, rush-oriented tools. Skinks are great for supporting situations like that, so Saurus don't really fit in as well to that approach. But if you are playing more defensively, if you're in a matchup where you're able to or you need to, for whatever reason, yeah, Saurus are a decent option. I mean, the Saurus Spears, even still, decent weapon strength. Their melee attack isn't amazing, but in general, Saurus, even the regular Saurus, melee attack isn't that good for a unit in this price range. Weapon strength is really nice, but if you have some melee attack buffs, definitely helps. But just in general, yeah, that extra weapon strength makes these units hit really hard. 58 total weapon strength against large means they definitely pack a punch, and that extra 16, you know, applied to their melee attack as well, puts them up to what, like 40 melee attacks. So they can definitely get some good hits in. Like I said, if you have melee attack buffs as well, or just in general, you know, you don't really necessarily take them to do a ton of damage, but just help defend. And that 38 melee defends 10,000 HP. The mass is really good as well, 190, probably among the best mass profiles in the game for infantry. So yeah, Saurus Spears definitely have a lot going for them. The regular Saurus, maybe there's some matchups where they can just kind of like grind through a bunch of, maybe like Tomb Kings might be a matchup I'm thinking of, where they can actually like grind through a bunch of skeleton infantry. But even then, like, the changes in the Mechar warriors over time have probably flipped that equation, where it's not as cost effective to trade into them. I'd have to kind of look at it and see a little bit, but likewise, you know, Shabti, Tomb Scorpions, like the anti-infantry tools of the Tomb Kings are probably at one of their best states. Chariots still aren't great, but who needs chariots when you've got the single entity chariot War Sphinx, basically, right? Which does like chariot levels of collision damage. Yeah, very interesting. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.